creating this talk, I wanted to think about ways that would be beneficial to our cohort. And as many of you know, I'm a very non-traditional student, and what that means is that I'm old. So as many of you in the room are 21, I am the ripe old age of 37. I know I'm old age. Kale and California living. Actually, it's okay. It's sunscreen and not smoking, but that's another topic entirely. So, things that I wanted to share with you within 10 minutes. I came up with this idea of 5 things that I wish I knew 10 years ago. Because in a lot of ways, I wish I was 21, not for the mistakes I made when I was in my early 20s, but because you have so much opportunity to use this course and create this amazing life. So for me, really side hustle is my lifestyle. I do freelance. I've been doing freelance for quite a few years, and part of that ability to do freelance and to be able to pay my rent and do cool stuff like food and water and things is because I have a foundation in adjuncting. And with a master's degree, and I can only talk for the US, I don't know the rules around here in the UK, but with a master's degree, you can work as a full-time lecturer or what we call as an adjunct professor. And this is what I've been doing since 2007. And this allows me the freedom to do lots of other projects that I would consider my side hustle lifestyle. It's not for everyone. Part of what my niche is, this is me in my lecture hall of 400 students, human biology course at San Jose State University, and it's definitely not something that everyone wants to do. Not everyone wants to teach. Not everyone wants to have the kind of lifestyle that is unpredictable, and sometimes one month you make really good money, and then the next month not so much, but for me, I love it. I love the non-traditional lifestyle. I enjoy the freedom that comes with crafting all of my days and deciding where I want my work life to go. So within that, here are my top 5 things I wish I knew when I was first starting out in academia and in my career. Number 1, always be connecting. Meaning that you are constantly really pitching yourself to people. So I was the Nerd Night Silicon Valley boss because of just the people that I knew. I did Comic-Con. I did a story presentation on the biology of zombie brains. So this is us at Comic-Con doing a panel. And I was asked to do that just because people knew who I was, knew I loved SciComm, and that I loved engaging non-traditional groups in talking about science. And I recently did over the summer a TED Ed, which was a huge collaboration, which is an animation. I wrote the script and did the storyboarding, the idea. We had an animation company do the animations. And again, this was all brought about because I went to conferences, I interacted with people, I did that horrible thing of walking up to someone you don't know and be like, "Hi, stranger, will you be my friend?" "Oh, okay, that's fine." And it's horrible. And networking is so hard sometimes, especially if you're going in cold or you're going in by yourself. But almost every job I've ever gotten has been through the people that I know. So this one's going to be another huge one that I continue to struggle with daily, but it's something to really kind of get comfortable and get friendly with failure. Because you will fail, and you will fail often, and it sucks. And it never gets better. No matter how much you fail, it never gets better. But it's important that you keep pushing through that. So here's some of the places that I failed. And I'm going to share a story with, I think, the most difficult one out of this collection. And this is not an exhaustive list of all the places that I failed at. But, I mean, there's only so much room on the slide, right? And I'm not including my, failed relationships in there because that's an entire another lecture. So this was the big one, I think, most relevant to us. And I had made it through into a final audition to host a Discovery Channel show, which was like my dream, right? It was like my dream is coming true, and I was so excited. And I got through the first level of auditions, made it through the first level of producers. got to the second level of producers, thought I did okay. I clearly didn't, because I didn't get the position. And it was really, really hard for me because I worked really hard. And I thought that I brought everything I had to it, and it still wasn't enough, right? And when you create something that is either a written piece or a visual piece, or where you are presenting yourself, you put your heart and soul into something, and then people say, eh, or I don't like it, or that just really sucks. And that's hard. That's hard because it's you. It's part of why we do this creative endeavor, but it's also one of the hardest parts of being a creative. Another thing is, something that's really difficult for a lot of us, is making the ask. And asking for not only what you need, but also what you want. And knowing that if it's a no, then it's a no, at least you asked. Because if you don't ask, then it's automatically a no. This is an article that I wrote for Science Magazine about being a first-generation college student. And on the first day of college, literally falling into a hole, like a trench. I can't make up this stuff, right? And it was like this barbecue of frat guys. They had to come pull me out of the trench. True story. But you'll have to read about it in Science Magazine. And the reason why I got into Science Magazine is because I made the ask. There was an editor that was talking about these stories about scientists and the life of scientists, and I was like, hey, I have a story. I'm going to raise my hand. And it got published. And that comes to doing it before you're ready. I'm going to explain this picture, which I struggled with not putting it up because it is not an attractive picture of me. That's no filter. Is doing it before you're ready. So this picture is of me in the middle of the Adriatic Sea. I was going on a 14-day boat tour with one of my best friends, and this exact moment is when I sent the signed copies of my contract for my first book. This is not all my alcohol. So we're on a very tiny boat. So this is the navigation station, the networking station, the bar, the kitchen. There's my luggage. It's also luggage storage. If you've ever been on a boat, you know it's all about maximizing space. So this was the moment when I signed it electronically and sent it off that said, I've just signed my name to the dotted line, and I owe you a book now because I'm legally bound to get this to you. And I'd never written a book before. This was scary. This was huge. If I waited to write a book when I felt ready, when I felt like, yes, finally, I've made it to this nebulous area of okayness and good enough, and I'm ready, that would have never happened. I would have never written my book. Was it the best book ever? No, I'm sure it wasn't. I hope to keep writing books. That's my goal. But if you don't put your stuff out there first, then you're never going to get better. And for me, one of the hardest things is not creating, but putting it out. Putting it out there so the world can see and judge it. That's the hardest thing for me. And I think, if I had to guess, that's probably going to be one of the hardest things for everyone in the creative field. So if you don't feel ready, then that is the perfect place that you need to be. And just do it. Just sign up first and figure it out later. Because this is a thing. Right? Everyone feels like they're not good enough and that they're an imposter in their role. And imposter syndrome is basically feeling like, they're going to figure out? I really don't know what the hell I'm doing. But shh, till they do. I felt this when I first started teaching. I feel this as a writer. I feel this as a creator. And I think no matter how much you create and how much you do, there's going to be a little bit of this. I mean, unless you're a total sociopath. You're just like, I'm a badass. Fall to your feet around me. But get comfortable with this and know this is a thing. And know that you're not the only one to feel this and to push through. Because at the end of the day, we need to keep pitching. We need to keep creating because the world needs your stories. the world needs our stories really now more than ever. So, thank you.